Hello everyone, vonlin here, bringing you a video of all comprehensive information to known date about Rome 2 Total War, which is only 3 months away, scheduled to release September 3rd. You can pre-purchase it on Steam for $60. At E3, they said the beta is approaching. Whether it be closed or open, they haven't really spoke about it much, but they said they're on track to release the game and that all the features are in the game, that they're merely polishing and bug fixing it. So I thought I would start a series of news info on Rome 2 Total War, videos that are about Rome 2 Total War's release. I'm going to talk over this trailer of the walkthrough of the Battle of Teutoburg, which is one of the first, gameplay footage videos that they released about the game, and just kind of tell you guys about all the information that's been known to the game. I compiled it all together in a list, and I'm going to walk you through it and pretty much give you all the goods that there is. There's a lot of information coming out from E3 right now about the game, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more in the next few days and weeks. But I'm going to catch everything up to now, and then I'll make future videos about the new information that's learned. And we can watch this nice ambush battle in the Battle of Teutoburg Forest, which most of you have probably seen this video already, but if you haven't, it's a walkthrough of one of the historical battles in the game, which is Rome being ambushed by Germania in the woods in the forest. There's a lot more information on this battle online if you're curious about it, and it's a really cool battle. It shows off a lot of features of the game, but without that, I want to start talking about some of the information within the game. One thing that you've noticed already is that they're adding a unit camera in the game, which is where you can click on a unit and click unit camera, and you zoom into the level of the units, so you feel like you're in that part of the army. And Creative Assembly really wants to put a human element to the game of Rome Total War and really zoom in. There's facial animations on units where you can see them reacting in horror. Individual commanders will give speeches to groups of units around them, like in siege towers. And it just really lets you get right into warfare and enjoy the game on an entertainment value level as far as visually being appealing and stimulating. Some hard facts about the game is they've said that there'll be armies of units that you create that are limited. There can be 40 units in an army. That includes land and naval, so I don't know if that means you're going to have 40 land units, which would be significantly, in all previous Total War games, you only have 20 units in an army, so they're doubling that to make armies larger, but that might be limited to land units, who knows, but that is the number they've thrown out. And there's a cap on the number of armies a faction can have at any time, based on the faction's power, which is based on the number of regions they control and their gold, it appears. So it's trying to make it that battles are more decisive in the game on the campaign map. That, if you throw an army at an enemy and lose it, you can't just replenish that army, or they can't just replenish their army out of nowhere, or have another army behind it. It's really going to make the game more strategy-based, hopefully in the campaign level. You can name units within armies and change their emblems, and players can assign traits and traditions to legions or armies as they level up, and also choose their weapon loadout, so you have way more customization of your units and armies than ever before seen in a Total War game, which should make it a lot of fun. Traditional unit veterans still exist, so as units fight in battle and gain experience, their stats increase as they level up. This is separate from the traditions that you assign armies as a whole, and their weapon loadout changes. So there'll still be veteran units, but if you lose an entire army, all the veteran units are lost, but you can still have that army. You can recreate that army and retrain it with the same traits that you've developed over time. So you kind of have you could have your 5th Legion, which is famous for certain combat traits, and you could have it wiped out, but the traditions and values and customs and training procedures of that Legion supposedly will still exist. So you can recreate that army and develop them over time. Generals level up and have skills are chosen by the player, just like in previous games, like in Shogun 2. And they also have traits that they gain based on what happens in the game, which you don't have any control over besides of how you use them. If an army loses its general, the player appoints a new one from that army. So that's kind of, and you can actually, it says you can create generals and armies. So that's kind of interesting. You must be able to appoint family members or commanders and turn them into generals. But of course, you must be limited by these, I'm guessing, because it says you can limit how many armies you have. So you can't just have an infinite number of generals, I would assume. That isn't so decisive. I'm just speculating on that point. Everything in this video, most of what I've done in this video is research, but some of it, of course, is my own speculation. You can recruit units in friendly territory. Your core units, like Romans, can recruit legionnaires in Roman territory, and in foreign territory, they can create mercenaries, just like in other Shogun or Total War games. The mercenaries you recruit are going to be based on the region You know, if you're in the desert, you recruit desert tribesmen. If you're in Gaul, you're going to get barbarian mercenaries. When units are on the campaign map, this is really cool. Something new that there's going to be stances that your army is in at all times. And there's 5 different stances, I think. The first stance is Forced March, which allows them to run or move across the campaign map faster. But there's some downsides to that is that they'll have a baggage train out behind them unprotected, so that if you're ambushed while in Forced March mode, your baggage train will be exposed on the battlefield, and if the enemy captures or destroys your baggage train, you will lose your whole army. So that's something to watch out for. There's a defensive stance where your army will lay down stakes and forts and have a defensive position if attacked. I'm guessing they move much slower in this stance. There's an ambush stance, which allows you to obviously lay an ambush and attack other armies, but it also allows you to lay traps on the battlefield like the hay barrels we saw in this video. There's a muster stance, which is how you recruit units in Rome 2. You create an army and you put them in a muster stance, and when they're mustering, the army in general cannot move, but units will appear in that army. And there's a raid stance, which is you'll generate loot income with that army, and that army will have reduced unit upkeep. And you can do that in friendly territory, which will decrease happiness, or in enemy territory. Let's see what else. So navies, there's going to be mixed land and naval battles, including city sieges. Ships can land and have land units disembarked from them. Navies alone can actually conquer poorly guarded coastal cities if they don't have a lot. Without you having a land army there, you can have your navy attack the port, land in the city, and land marines to take the city. Naval units will be bigger in size than they were in Shogun 2, multiple ships per unit, so you'll have a larger feeling navy quicker. Your navy will feel larger, I should say. And there also will be naval regions from the original medieval game, but they haven't said completely how that's worked, but how it sounds like it'll work is there'll be fleets stationed in naval regions, and that it'll prevent enemies from slipping past your ships, landing and invading without fighting your navy. So if you station a navy in a naval region off your coast, no one can land on that coastline without fighting your navy. So between that and the fact that navies can capture cities, I think naval powers are going to be much more significant and relative in this game than they were in other games. If you're a naval power, it'll actually mean something. You'll be able to protect your lands and take lands with that. As far as agents, there's 3 core types of agents, they've said. There's a dignitary, a champion, and a spy. Each faction will have cultural variants of these. Agents have a profession that is determined by their background and ethnicity, which players can invest points in as the agent levels up. And the player can also place points in a skill tree. So there's going to be some kind of profession for each agent and also skill tree, which sound like 2 separate things you put points in so far. Every agent can remove same agents of their same type. They can either assassinate them, bribe them, or convert them, making each individual type of unit more useful instead of just having spies or assassins kill agents. You know, all agents can do battle with other agents, basically. When we get to the units, there's no rebel nation in the Rome 2. It's going to be all many smaller unique nations and city-states with unique playstyles, which means that there's going to be over 500 different land units, including mercenaries in the game. And each cultural will have, or each faction will have different agents and technologies for their different factions. There'll be 30 different city variants, so every city battle is going to feel different. You're not going to have the same city fight over and over and over. There's 30 different kinds of cities based on culture. And yeah, and actually, speaking of units, when you see them in battle, you'll actually see symbols up here above their head when they level up. So that's kind of cool. All units will have a mass rating, which affects their impact on charges. You know, a light armored unit's can have very little mass, where a heavy armored infantry is going to have a lot more mass. Cavalry is going to have even more mass, and elephants and chariots have the most mass. And that's so it's really going to make charges more impact based on that. If you have a really heavy cavalry charge into some light infantry, you're going to literally see them knock the whole unit apart in this game. Cavalry charges are going to be a lot more powerful looking, at least, and probably useful than in previous games. There's several different battle types in the game. There's the combined naval land battles I mentioned, where navies can land units. There's battlements on settlement outskirts, which I'm not sure how they're going to differ from field battles, but apparently they will. There's siege battles, of course, where you capture cities and in these siege battles, it's interesting to note that there's multiple capture points. So instead of defending just one square, you'll have to actually defend strategic points. Because some of the historical battles have capture points throughout the map. There's encampment battles, which is where if an army is in defensive stats and is attacked, it's defending inside a mini fort or encampment with barricades. There will be river battles, which you've seen in Total War games, of course, which is where one army is trying to cross a river and another army tries to stop them. There's ambush battles, which happen when one army in the campaign map is in ambush stance and attacks another army, and they can set up traps before the battle, like you saw in this video. There's supply train battles, which is caused when an army on the campaign map is in forced march stance and is attacked, where the supply trains will be on the battlefield and be attacked. And I will talk about the other types of battles and the rest of this information in the next video, which is going to be of the Nile battle, another historical battle that they just released at E3. We've now switched to some footage of the campaign map, which was the first look that Creative Assembly has given us. The campaign map was at E3 in a GameSpot interview. And they're going to, from the campaign map, they're going to go into another historical battle, which is the Battle of the Knob. It's the first time to see the campaign map. Anyways, I was talking about the types of battles. The last type of battle is a port siege, which is when a navy attacks a coastal city. A navy alone can attack cities, disembark units, and to capture the city without having a land army with it. That's the last type of battle that can happen. Then a feature I want to talk about battles at this part, though, was that you can zoom way out of battles, as you probably saw in the first part of this video, where you can zoom all the way out and you can look down the battlefield and get a full tactical advantage of the whole map and see your units represented as icons that control the battle from that point. So it gives you a much more tactical feel. It's very similar to what the game Supreme Commander had, if anyone's familiar with that game. Diplomacy is being improved greatly in Rome 2. There's going to be better and smarter AI. The AI should be more cunning and intelligent and much less suicidal as it has been in previous titles, where it would make decisions that didn't make any sense. The AI will be more reactive to what you do, and your effects will be more noteworthy in their decisions. There'll be a tab called the Relations tab, which lists all of the actions that affect the diplomacy between you and other entities. It offers complete transparency in the diplomacy system, as it will show every action you've done that's affected their standing towards you, if it's been negative or positive, if you've attacked them or broken an alliance, or stop trading with them. It'll show the positive and negative gains of that, so you have complete transparency in your decisions and be able to make better educated decisions through diplomacy. And apparently some nations will be more diplomacy geared and be able to achieve their goals through diplomacy in the game. There's going to be a political system that's brand new in Rome 2. Every faction will have 3 political entities that vie for internal power. Players will choose one of the 3 entities to be a part of, and their political standing is based on a new resource system, which is turn-based and collects based off the deeds and actions of the generals and characters belonging to your family. So as you become more powerful and capture regions and further your political party or entity's agenda, you can eventually become emperor or king of your faction after an internal civil war, which is another new mechanic that they're going to add. Generals should be noted are both military leaders and politicians. Now, so for some information on the campaign map, there's going to be as you saw a little bit ago, I showed you the full campaign map in this part of the video, but there's 183 different regions, and the map itself is 4 times the map of Shogun 2. Those 183 regions will be divided into 57 provinces. Provinces contain up to 4 regions or more. Regions are conquered separately, and this is all new mechanic and really interesting about Rome 2. Regions are conquered separately. Once you control all the regions from the province, you control the province as a whole, and you can pass edicts on the province, which provides certain buffs such as happiness or military production or trade income, I'm sure. And construction options are on a province level, as is the happiness. So you can monitor happiness province-wise and construction province-wise. So what it means is they're trying to make the whole campaign map, as your empire grows to a large state, be much less micro-intensive on the campaign level. Even though there might be 183 regions, if you control most of the map, you don't have to manage 183 regions. At the most, you're going to have to manage 57 provinces, which is similar to Shogun 2. I think Shogun 2 had 60 regions total. It's very interesting mechanic that they're adding to it. Resource buildings are only going to be within regional capitals of each region instead of spread out across the Shogun map. And there will be automatic garrisons for regions to make up for the lack of resource buildings, which I don't fully understand what that means, but it's information they've thrown out there. We do know that there'll be automatic garrisons like Shogun 2, which was very nice. And the province capital will be will have walls and it'll be more castle and fort-like. It'll really be the only major siege battle within each province. That means you can take regions without having to do a siege every single time. There'll be alternative fighting scenarios to capture settlements and towns. It won't be siege after siege after siege and feel really repetitive like it did in other games. So the whole province regional mechanic should be really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Moving on to factions. There's 117 different factions in Rome 2, each with their own roster and agenda. There's three main cultural groups that the factions are split up into, which is Greco-Roman, Barbarian, and Eastern, very similar to Rome 1. The factions will be based on, some of them will be military based, some of them more diplomacy based, some of them trade based, some of them navy based, and they're all and there can be mixes of that as well. Originally there was 8 playable factions, but there's really 9 playable factions because they're releasing a 9th faction for free on release date that everyone will have. And they also have 3 Greek factions that are in a DLC Greek city-state pack. You can get that for free if you pre-order the game, so if you haven't pre-ordered it. So really the game will have 12 playable factions upon release, with more playable factions through DLC, which may be free or cost a few bucks. Either way, it should be interesting. The first faction, of course, is Rome. The 3 political entities are 3 different families you choose to be a part of. Rome is unique in that it will have the Senate and politics within that. Happiness will be based on the happiness of the upper and lower populace of society. They're obviously a military conquest nation with a strong land army and navy. Next, there's Carthage, which has a strong navy, has 3 political parties that you choose to play as. Will be really trade-based, and also have, of course, the powerful war elephant unit. There's Macedon, which is the former people of Alexander the Great. They're going to be a military conquest faction, but they will have rich resources and trade. To balance this all out, it sounds like they will have a weak navy, though. And I'm not going to pronounce this one correctly. There's the Iceni faction, Iceni, which is Celtic Britain. So it's basically Britannia. It's a barbarian tribe. Their unique units that they kind of have are chariots. Their happiness, interestingly enough, is going to be based on the number of armies on the war front, because the whole nation is war crazed. So your public happiness will be based on how many armies you have. So that's pretty cool. Because of that, they'll be based on military conquests. They're going to have all the famous blue warriors that you saw from Rome 2 or Rome 1. The next tribe is the Arvenian tribe, which is a Celtic Gaul tribe. So this is going to be Gaul from Rome 2. They're going to have Druids in the Druid order. Not a lot of information on that, but it might be similar to the Roman Senate, and that'll be that same type of mechanic. They will be the most technically advanced barbarian tribe, have the best economic power, and it will be trade-focused with better diplomacy. They have a diplomacy bonus among other barbarians. Next, there's the Suebi tribe, which is a German tribe. They have the most limited tech. They fight unarmored, and they use javelin spears. Swords are rare among them, but they're very powerful militarily. They rely on raids and ambush tactics. The next faction is Parthia. It's a confederation of tribes famously known for their heavy cataphracts, mercenaries, and tribesmen. They'll have vast, rich agriculture holdings, an extensive road system, and will be military conquest based. After that, there's Egypt, which is a Greek-Egyptian hybrid faction at this time period, famous for spearmen and chariots and war elephants. They will be rich and military conquest-based, it appears. The free faction upon release from DLC will be Pontus. They'll have a lot of trade and wealth, a strong naval power, and strong army. Both Pontus, Egypt, and Parthia were all in Rome 1. And then there's the Greek city-states culture pack, which includes Athens, Epirus, and Sparta. Athens has the biggest Greek naval power, undeveloped armies though, but will be very strong diplomatically. Epirus has heavy cavalry, slingers, and phalanxes. Their generals will have a larger command radius than the other generals of other factions, very interesting. And they will get a higher income from small settlements because they are an organization of tribes and small settlements. Sparta, of course, is military-based. They suffer in resources and diplomacy, but of course have probably one of the best units from the game, which will be the Spartan Hoplite. The last thing I wanted to mention was multiplayer. They've stated there will be a multiplayer campaign, which I'm guessing will be just like Shogun 2. You can cooperatively take over the whole map with another player or go head-to-head on the campaign map as foes. They also said there will be head-to-head battles of up to 4 players. And then they have another part of multiplayer that they said they have big plans for and they're fleshing something out, but they haven't announced what it is yet because they're still testing it, and once it's been proven, they'll give more information on that. So I'm excited to hear what that is, whether it be an Avatar campaign or something new. That concludes all the information to date that I have on Rome 2. I'll make more videos as more information comes out, especially from E3 and more videos. The game comes out in 3 months, September 3rd. They said a beta is approaching. Stay tuned, guys. It should be good. Make sure to pre-order, get your free Greek city-states, and thank you for watching my video. Hang around my channel and don't forget to subscribe.